Hello, warriors. Welcome to the You Movement. I am B. How are you all doing? It has been intense since the new year, with solar flares pummeling the planet and the Schumann resonance off the charts and geomagnetic storms and a whole bunch of energy fluctuations, all intending to help us purge, and purge. And so what I've been doing is purging. I've been using yin yoga as a primary means to get into the body, while many emotions that I find very difficult to process have been arising. So instead of yin yoga, it's cry yoga. Has been what's been going down, and what's been purging for me is another round of grief. And grief, it has visited me so often on this awakening path, and I wanted to talk a little bit about it because the insights that are coming up. You know, we talk an awful lot in spiritual communities about new beginnings, rising from the ashes, and, you know, the other side, the flip side. What we don't like talking about is the endings, the dyings, the deaths, the destruction, however it pans out in your life. For there to be a new beginning, a new anything, there needs to be an ending of some kind. And endings are not easy. They're in fact quite difficult. Endings is something I would say I'm terrible at. There have been so many examples in my life in situations that I held on to long past the point of the exit should have been, the exit ramp should have been taken years prior. Relationship, most definitely, and job situations also. And I have this need in me to hold on to situations. And why do we hold on? Well, we hold on for a couple of reasons. One, we hold on to because of a false sense of loyalty. You know, I've always very much believed in the foundation of relationship having the four cornerstones for me were honesty, integrity, honor, and respect. Those four cornerstones have been what I have built all of my relationships on, or at least attempted to. And so because of that, when we have a strong sense of honor, there's this idea that you need to remain loyal, loyalty at all costs. And unfortunately, what I've learned is when you compromise yourself in the name of loyalty, you are actually being disloyal to yourself, because you're no longer standing in your truth and your own authenticity. And me holding on to situations and relationships always came at a cost of compromising, you know, because, well, they're doing this and this is good, so I'll just put down my need of this, and this, because they're doing at least one thing. So it's the birthplace of settling and tolerating energies that are not reciprocal, sometimes very toxic, and sometimes exceptionally hurtful and abusive. So sitting in this awareness of how crappy I am at endings, and reviewing all the losses that I've experienced in this awakening process, and it's literally been like one after the other, just so many loss. I lost my mother to death, and that before I had lost her to death, I had actually cut her off. So those are two types of losses. Both come with their own weird and intricate grief, because losing a toxic parent is a different type of grief than losing a non-toxic parent, although I suppose really for there to be one toxic parent, there needs to be an enabler, which is toxic in its own right. But going through the grieving process over the last 3 years of this convoluted and complicated grief has been its own challenge. I also, as you all are aware, lost my marriage, and in that there has been so much life lessons, and I certainly talked enough about that. But you know, we when we lose a relationship, we lose more than just a person. We lose all the hats that they could have shown up for in us. We may lose a support structure. We may lose a source of income. We may lose a friend within that relationship. So their grief, again, it is complicated because it's not just losing a husband. It's losing all of the aspects, or wife, partner. It's losing all of the facets that person has filled an energetic tie with you. So there's many connections within intimate relationships. And then I've lost a lot of friends over the last years on this awakening path. I have new friends now that have replaced, but I lost people that were very, very close to me, that I would have considered family. And each of those relationships, I've needed to grieve and look at and understand where there was incongruence, where there was not a reciprocal energy, not a mutual understanding of respect, or where there was inconsistencies. And you know, that's been its own process. And then there's all the loss of family and or people you associate as family, which put me down its own rabbit hole of understanding that how you see connection isn't, and this is the biggest lesson for me, I suppose, it isn't how others see the connection. Because in our mind's eye, or in my mind's eye, I always tried to see the best in people, and I would create, a meaning to the relationship. That when you go through an awakening process and your reality is shook in so many ways, you start to understand that how you see and perceive things is unique to you, and where you may give a lot of credence and emotion and value to certain relationships, whether they be family, neighbors, friends, romantic, doesn't really matter, where you see something that doesn't necessarily mean they see you in the same light. And that reality, facing those truths, has been very challenging. Very, very challenging, because, there have been people in my life that I loved dearly and thought and held in very high regard. And when you start to go through your own healing process and start evaluating and taking stock of how not only you are showing up in the world, but how others are showing up into the world for you, you are forced to face reality for what it is. And what it is oftentimes silence. It isn't reciprocal love. And non-involvement, it isn't reciprocal love. Like being stonewalled or being ignored isn't reciprocal love. Gaslighting is definitely not reciprocal love. And a whole bunch of other energies, if people are projecting their shadow onto you, or other unresolved traumas that they have, and you learn to start having boundaries. You start to understand that just because you see somebody a certain way and you love them with a certain energy, and you create a story of what that relationship is, doesn't necessarily mean that's what the relationship is. And it's not until you can see reality and see the hopelessness in the situation that you realize that this is what is the impending ending. And an impending ending may feel torturous for you. It may not be, especially if you have, codependent mapping or markers or behaviors that have been instilled in you as a child. And endings can create a bunch of fear. It can also create a bunch of self-loathing, like, oh, look, I failed again. Here's another marriage that just failed. And instead of recognizing that in nature, all things end, including relationships. And so I have been taught over and over again by spirit, putting certain energies in my path, in certain relationships in my path, that it's like, okay, here's your test. One, are you recognizing where there's dysfunction, where there's inequality, where there's toxicity, where there's narcissistic traits? And two, are you willing to stand in your own integrity, even if that means standing alone? And this test has come up repetitively for me. And I grieve those losses. And at the same time, I understand the bigger picture at play, the bigger lesson at play. It is to learn how to master endings. It is to learn that endings are inevitable in life, and to learn that letting go is a necessary part of this process. And so today I've been allowing myself, as I'm stretching myself into a greater degree of flexibility in my physical, my emotional is also being tested to become more flexible and more and less rigid in how I view things and how I interpret relationships, and also in my ability to ebb and flow with the natural energies of life, instead of holding on for dear life to things that have long lost their season. Everything has its season, as the saying goes, and so we have to recognize when things are meant to end. And that in itself is challenging. And then when we recognize that things have to end, we have to get to the place of hopelessness in understanding that there's nothing that you can do to course correct it. You've seen it for what it is. You're seeing reality for what it is. You're seeing that you're incongruent. You're going your separate ways. And, at times, I visualize it like two trains on two separate tracks, and you can go along parallel for a while, and then eventually they just need to go their separate ways. And then once you do go your separate ways, is to allowing yourself to grieve the losses. Grieve what it meant to you. Even if it didn't mean the same thing to them as it meant to you, it meant something to you. And that's how we open ourselves into the new, into the beginning of what is the next season in your life. But there's a little bit of a void period between what was and what will be. And in that void period, in the lonely, in the isolation, we learn how to do endings. And so that's what Spirit has been teaching me as of late through this process of learning to be in this energy of receptivity and openness, a willingness, which I am. I'm willing to see what comes, but at the same time, I'm not willing to tolerate energies that are not going to be in receptivity and balance to my four cornerstones of honesty, respect, integrity, and honor. Those, we build our foundation upon four cornerstones, and that's how you get to build a structure that is stable and safe. And building from the ground up is where energetically I'm at. We're learning through this process to clear out any energies that aren't in alignment, especially on the root chakra, and that's really come up lately. Because the root chakra is all about foundation. It is about building structures at which we can build that's going to be fortified and strong. And if you build structures that aren't fortified and strong, over time it's going to be like the Leaning Tower of Pisa, and it's going to nosedive into things. So I know a lot of you out there are having to face certain realities, that certain relationships that you are in are a little bit leaning of Tower of Pisa like, and they're past the point of fix it. We have to take off the I can fix it deluded hat because you can't fix it. No, I'm not saying all relationships can't be fixed, but recognizing when things can't be fixed. It's beyond your control. It is helpless. It's never going to change. It is beyond anything that you can do. It is step one is dealing with reality as opposed to delusion. And listen, I grasp delusion was quite a comfortable place to be for a period of time for me. So I'm not judging anyone for how difficult process it is in facing reality and accepting that something is past the point of no return, and then making action steps based on that a level of awareness, and then going through the process of the grief that comes along with it. It's a challenging process. Probably one of the most challenging things I've faced on this journey. And there have been a lot of challenges, definitely facing reality, definitely dealing with a disintegrating ego, definitely dealing with my impatience at the process, faith, doubt, isolation, loneliness, depression, dark night of the soul. But we keep going down so that we can dig out the delusion, dig out and find the truth, even though sometimes the truths that we find are ugly and sad. It's sad. It is sad when you invest a lot of time, and that's, that can be one of the reasons why you choose to stay. Well, I've already put 10 years in, I might as well keep going. And then you'll get 10 more years of the same is what you'll get. And so it comes down to that question that I was first challenged with, which is evolve or die. Do you want to just carry on suffering in the suffering that you're in? Or does the fear of the unknown present a small inkling of hope? And, it's like a light off in the distant darkness, and you need to traverse through some difficult paths and processes of acceptance, letting go, which is not easy to do, moving on, which is not easy to do. You can only ever do it one step at a time. And then allowing yourself to feel the feels through that process, which is helping to make you more adaptable, more flexible, more able to handle life situations without grasping. And it doesn't matter, because where we may learn the lesson in the relationship area, that will apply to all areas of life. It will apply to our work lives. It will apply to our living locations. It will apply to anything. When we learn how to let go and end certain situations, we become much more resilient and much more like the energy of the octopus. I love the octopus because they can escape from things really actually quite instinctively. And so I suppose that's one of the archetypical energies that I call in. Well, not, sorry, totemic energies that I pull in is the energy of the octopus to help make me more fluid in life, because going with the flow, yeah, I would definitely like to learn how to go with the flow a lot more. So if you guys are struggling with endings, one of the resources that I've been listening to as of late is Necessary Endings, is a book that I'm listening to at the present moment in time to help me cope with all of the loss and the endings and the letting goes that I've had to go through over the last 3 years. I highly recommend it. I'm only about halfway through, but it is a useful resource. And if you're looking to get more adaptive, fluid, and flexible energetically in your life, then I highly recommend the Yin Yoga. Because as within, so without. What energies you cultivate within your body, you will replicate it out into the world around you. So it also is a great way to be grounded and be in presence, is experiencing the physical sensations. And it's so important. I just want to tack on here. It's really, really important that we put our bodies every single day with a certain degree of, I'm not going to say pain, but sensation, awkward and uncomfortable sensation, because, in holding certain poses, like one of my most challenging poses is happy baby. Interestingly enough, I struggle with that pose, or, low lunge, baby dragon, all the baby poses. It's an intense hold, and your body is feeling a lot of sensation. You never want to be in pain, but you want to be feeling a little bit of suffering, just a small degree of suffering, as well as the fact that I have cold showers is how I shower, because that's suffering, I can tell you, in its own way. And it's really important, I think, in my experience through this awakening, that we become more and more in an energy of suffering, as in sorry, I can hear the phone in the background, because it's like a desensitization. I've spent my entire life avoiding suffering at all costs, finding every way, shape, or form to not suffer. Pharmaceuticals, smoking, drinking, cannabis, relationship, like caffeine, action, working, being busy, controlling, being a perfectionist. Keep me as busy as humanly possible so I don't have to actually feel anything, because it's in the feeling that the suffering is. And what that has got me is into a load of hurt. Where I was when I started my awakening was overweight, sick, and all of that was trapped in me. All of those emotions were trapped in me, in the huge version of myself. And so in the process of learning how to suffer, and endings certainly are a nice trigger for you to experience some suffering. But the more we desensitize ourselves to suffering, the more tolerant we become, the more compassionate we become, the more adaptive, the more strong we become. And we live in a society where we don't want to suffer, where we want to deny suffering, we want to escape from suffering. On a whole, and we want to pretend everything is hunky-dory all of the time, and everything's peace and light and love, and that's only going to prolong and push out suffering. You can't escape it. There is no escape from it. So the most powerful thing I think that any of us can do is to sit in the suffering, is to desensitize ourselves to the suffering, instead of trying to run away from it. If you're experiencing grief, then grieve. If you're experiencing sorrow, then cry. If you're experiencing anger, then scream. Desensitize yourself to the avoidance that has been the way, and become used to expressing it, so that you can finally be clear of it and finally heal it fully. So I have hope. Off in the distance, I see a tiny little light of hope that, eventually the grief's going to run out. It can't stay forever. It just can't. Whatever emotion that you're in, and whatever you're experiencing in your endings, in looking back at the way your life used to be, and the regret, and the whatever else you're feeling, it just can't. Everything has a season. Everything. So right now, in this season where solar flares are coming in and spiritual awakenings are doing its thing, and the energy is as it is, just be in here, be now, be here now, observe it, allow it with compassion, don't resist it, accept it, The human experience isn't happiness. This human experience is all of it. So I'm sending love out to all of you and compassion out to all of you that are in it, that are feeling it, and that are working through it and allowing endings to be what they are. Peace out.